Processed foods are killing you, and it's worse than you think. My name is Dr. Brooke Goldner from Goodbye Lupus, and there's new studies out showing exactly what the actual effects are of eating what they call ultra-processed foods, and it is really bad. So there's two studies I want to talk to you about. Please pay close attention to this. So what are ultra-processed foods? These are foods, well, I call them foods. I hate calling them foods. These are items that people are eating that are processed in such a way where we are adding chemicals, preservatives, frying, taking extracts of something that was food, but changing it in a lab. And it includes a lot of the things that people eat daily that they don't even realize are actually ultra processed. So looking at a list here, it includes things like, of course, the frozen foods you get, frozen pizza, things like that, but also things like cookies and candy, donuts, ice cream, French fries, soda, energy drinks, but also other things that you might find surprising, like canned soup and sweetener flavored yogurts, juices, packaged meat, packaged vegetables. There's stuff like, of course, chicken nuggets and prepackaged meats and breakfast cereals, even if it says healthy on the label, breakfast cereals, protein bars, cereal bars, infant formulas. Really think about anything that has a shelf life, right? If you made soup and left it on your counter, it's going to spoil in a day. But yet you can buy a canned soup and it doesn't. So there's a much bigger list, but now you're getting the idea of what they consider to be ultra processed food, something that's not fresh. Well, what does it do? So there's two studies. The first study was a review of 45 meta-analysis on almost 10 million people, okay? And what they found is that people who have just one serving of ultra processed foods a day, about 10% of your diet by calories, one serving a day, have a 50% increased risk, 50% increased risk of dying from any kind of heart disease, heart attack, strokes, peripheral artery disease, 50% high risk of dying from heart disease. They also showed that it increased the risk of anxiety by up to 53%. A lot of people don't realize their mental health is tied to their diet. And it increased your risk of an early death from any cause, not just your heart, but any cause, by 20%. So just having one serving a day of these processed items is increasing your risk of dying from heart disease by 50%, increasing your anxiety by over 50%, and your risk of dying from anything by 20%. And this is over 10 million people. This is very, very serious. Now, another study was looking at the effects of ultra-processed foods on your brain. So this one was just published in JAMA Neurology. They followed 10,000 Brazilians for up to 10 years to see what the effects were of eating these processed items. And what they found was 2 servings of 20% of your diet coming from these increased your risk of dementia by 20%. 20%. And they found that people who were eating the most ultra-processed foods had a 25% faster rate of decline in their executive function, their ability to do tasks, and 28% faster rate of cognitive impairment thinking, all from eating these items. Now, in Brazil, their processed foods typically make up about 25% of their diet, according to these studies. In the US and England, ultra-processed foods make up over 50% of most people's diet. Canadians, almost there, 48%. So they're looking at people who are eating 20% of their diet ultra-processed. Most people in the Western diet are eating more than double that amount. And we have a lot of people out there that are dealing with cognitive impairment and dementia. Now, what was interesting, and I want you to pay attention to this, is this study also found that for people who mostly eat unprocessed diets that are full of fresh fruits and vegetables and unprocessed grains, that those people no longer had cognitive decline related to them occasionally having those ultra-processed foods. So if you do what I call my maintenance protocol, where you're having your green smoothies and eating your fresh foods and you're eating healthy plant-based diet, and you occasionally have those French fries or that Impossible Burger, that it does not accelerate dementia. So I thought that was a very interesting thing to notice, okay? Now, the other part that they looked at was how this affected the brain in addiction areas. And what they found is that for people who tend to have regular intake of these ultra-processed items, that when they looked at the label or the signage of, if it was fast food, of their favorite type of processed food, the areas of the brain responsible for cravings in addiction lit up. So the moment you see that label on the wrapper of that thing that you're addicted to, that you crave, Your brain lights up in anticipation, just like someone who's addicted to alcohol feels when they see a bottle of alcohol, just like somebody addicted to cocaine feels when they see the drug. So there's a part of the brain that activates, that tells you, get it, get it, get it, that craving center. And then when they consume it, the part of the brain involved in addiction lights up. So most people are not eating ultra-processed items because they think they're healthy, but because they feel like they're out of control when they see it. And it's actually true. There's an addiction process that we have to break in order to get healthy. The other thing that they found is that immediately upon consuming it, there was a decline in their ability to perform the tasks that they were given as they were before they consumed it. So eating these ultra-processed items is actually killing you at a faster rate from any cause by 20%. It increases your risk of dying from a heart attack 50%. It increases your rate of getting cognitive decline and dementia, and you're addicted to it. Right? So this is also, by the way, reminiscent of studies that were already done years ago on meat. There were studies done on meat that were so convincing that the World Health Organization considers processed meat like hot dogs, bologna, bacon to be a class 1 carcinogen, same as cigarettes and asbestos, because it's so convincing that they cause cancer as deadly as those other items. And long-term study of 28,000 people showed that an additional daily serving, one daily serving of red meat increased your risk of death by 13% from any cause, and by 20% if it was a processed meat like bacon. So one of the things I liked was there was a Harvard News release back in 2012 that said, and I quote, "It appears that healthy meat consumption has become an oxymoron." So when you look at the Western diet, it's ultra-processed, it's ultra addictive, and it's ultra deadly. And this is not just shown in things like heart disease. We talked about in a previous video, I taught you about how the Frick Institute in England showed that as the Western diet has spread throughout the world, autoimmune diseases have spread at the same rate. So we are killing ourselves and causing all causes of suffering by eating this way. And yet, doctors have not stepped up yet, and they need to. All right. They need to step up because changing your diet works. We are chasing an epidemic of illness, early death, dementia with medications, and it's not working. People are suffering, but changing your diet works, and this is why. So I want to make sure that you understand this information. Please share this information with people so they understand. And this is why they don't want to change. The addiction process makes you want to push this away, but you can't push away data that's done over 10 million people. This is the truth of our situation right now, but there is something we can do, right? If you just looked at my recent case series where I showed what people with lupus and Sjogren's not only reversed all of their symptoms between 2 to 6 weeks, but they are all symptom-free for years off medication, one 3 years, one 6 years, one 7 years. I myself am lupus-free over 18 years just with changing diet. And I give that information away, so make sure that you grab that. If you've never seen me before and you want to learn, I have so much free information. You can go ahead and click the link. If they're on Facebook, there'll be a link. If you're on Instagram, click my profile link, goodbyelupus.com. I give information away on the daily. I have books, of course, but I have lots of free information, and I come on every Wednesday on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for free coaching for the public. And you can see me in any of those places. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to give you the truth about nutrition, because I would have been long dead from lupus if I hadn't changed my diet. And I don't want anyone to lose their lives, to suffer, or to lose someone they love because they didn't know the truth. So I hope this helped you. I hope it motivates you, and I hope you're well. I'll see you next time. This is Dr. Brooke Goldner from Goodbye Lupus.